Greetings, I'm Kathleen O'Toole, Takoma Park's current Poet Laureate, and I'm delighted to be able to introduce you to 4 poets this evening. We have missed gathering as our third Thursday poetry reading since early March, when the necessary shutdowns began of public events, and our Takoma Park Arts crew has been busy posting previous arts events, including poetry, for your enjoyment on Takoma Park Arts Online. Now we have started to develop new content, new arts content to offer to you, and tonight we will do that with a reading of 4 new poets who were to have been with us in March, speaking our truths, poems of identity, place, and community. Last summer, when our selection committee put out a call for poets, we were struck by the number of powerful poems engaged with themes of our public life and public issues, from the environment to criminal justice to peace. And these poets have in common that their poems speak very powerfully to place and identity. Though their backgrounds and place of origin are different, they all speak from the heart to the importance of speaking our truths in community. So I'm happy to introduce you tonight to Tatiana Figueroa, Marty Pates, Sasha Pinson, and Susan Scheid. We'd like you to stay tuned to Takoma Park Arts for other offerings, and please plan to join us in October, when you'll be able to meet these poets and hear their work in person, and we will be delighted to see you then. And now, our poets.
Hi, my name is Marty. So today I have a few poems that I have to read that are inspired by personal elements of my upbringing, whether it was conversations I had overheard as a child, things and people I had seen within my community, or simply as stories my mother shared with me while doing my hair in the kitchen. So today, the first poem would be Burnt Bacon. Okay, let me go ahead. Burnt bacon. Summer's peak with nothing more than just heat. The streets swell and sizzle, black kids cook and frizzle. Skin crispier than burnt bacon. A side of sunny side eggs, fries scrambled and shaken. It don't bother them none. They keep running, laughing till the sun closes in on the horizon. Skin darker than burnt bacon. Sweet maple and smoke permeating the night sky. They'll be at it again tomorrow. Fried harder and darker and better. The next poem I have today is called Oh Lonely Miss Eloise. What I need friends for? All they do is smile in your face, then sleep with your man. The women down at the church ain't no good. If I went anywhere with them, on one of them church trips, they'll see me. See how my body look under these pretty church suits and church hats. Nah, I can't have that. I can hear them laughing, whispering, telling folks Miss Eloise ain't nothing but wrinkled leather. All that shaking her hips, nose in the air ain't about nothing. What I need friends for? I got a man. He might not be nothing but an old stubborn dog, but that's all right. I don't need no friends. He is all I need. Okay, and so, the last poem I have for today is called Weeds. I told my mama to stop feeding those weeds. They ain't going nowhere. I told my mama them weeds just crowding space, taking up room where flowers can bloom. Pluck them, spit them out, cut them, get rid of them. But mama keeps watering them weeds, praying for something different. Mama say them weeds better than nothing. I told mama, well, them weeds is all you gonna get. All right, so today that is all I have. I know this video is short and sweet, but If you're looking for more of my writings, my website will be back up within a month or so. Black Coffee is spelled BLKCOFFY.com. I want to thank you for tuning in, and yeah, hopefully I get this opportunity again. And all right, see you soon. Bye.
Hi everybody, I'm Sasha Pinson. I'm a poet originally from Eastern Kentucky. I'm going to take this as an opportunity to read a couple poems that I haven't really tested out on an audience yet. So hopefully you enjoy. Hopefully you're all out there safe and quarantined. Okay. So first poem is called Pikeville Medical Center. I always said it was in bad taste. The sleek new design, charcoal gray brick, blacked out windows. When businesses failed downtown, PMC bought their boarded up buildings and painted them dark, one by one, like granite headstones. If you fly over, it's impossible not to see the hulking chrysalis of black glass, a set of coal dark lungs embedded in the horseshoe-shaped chest cavity of Pikeville, city that moves mountains, more like city riddled with malignant black lesions, like my papa's brain, his body before he passed, and I wish I had not been so afraid to look, because maybe they reminded him of caverns, maybe of tunnels from his body to heaven. Maybe he wanted to take his pickaxe back up a headlamp and burrow into his cancer like the 40 years he spent in the mines. He refused to die in that hospital. Some nights I dream of Phoenix, all fire, all glory, fueled by every coal-marred lung in this town, emerges from that black shell and burns the whole damn city down. The creation of Adam. And what if Michelangelo dreamed God's finger was weighted like a milk-heavy breast, engorged and aching, as he thrust it upon Adam, who was never innocent enough to know infancy's song, gurgling, throaty need cry, and sinless he held his hand outward to receive, and God felt the tingling let-down of soul leak from his ethereal hands. Adam serenely cooed, my God, and the heavenly host of cherub-faced angels gathered to peek at him, and God, reeling with relief, said one more, one to hold this heaviness, this joy, let her body ache as I too have ached. He only told her later it was punishment, after he felt emptiness in his fingertips, after Adam said he had no mother. Overdue ode to hollers. Because it's the gravelly way Eastern Kentucky folks say hollow, because holler is not a bashful word, it is not an empty space, a depression in the surface of a mountain, it is the antithesis of insignificant. Its primary meaning is to call for, yell to, cry out, because like any living thing, it has a body. To be at the head of a holler is to be at the edge of wildness. A holler is well-worn wrinkles, laugh lines, the valleys between Mamaw's knuckles, because Randy Travis compared his love to their depth, because I always find myself explaining what a holler is, because it's the only place you can stare back at God as he eyes the meniscus of trees trembling against the wind, because where else would a coal miner's daughter come from, where my imagination calls back to what is left for a reclaimed hillbilly like me to dream of. We holler in our drawled diction as if these tongues were garbled by the creeks their hollers are named for, as if our mouths are always carrying their water, because their fluid geography on a map looks like sound waves, like the vibrations of my vocal cords as I sing to it and call to it, and this is an ode to hollers because I count them among places so sacred they become more than home. You belong to them like a congregation. Bring your kid to work day. You better straighten up or I'll take you to the mines with me. My dad. I never went inside a coal mine but cowered near its mouth and watched how each man humbled before going inside, learned entering is the opposite of birth. My mother scrubbed the tub nightly with Ajax after his shower. Raised acrylic bumps along the tub's bottom matched my goose flesh. Dust deposits rivered them, no matter the ferocity of her Brillo pad. My prune fingers traced lines I did not know I was mapping. My first coal seam, the one that found its way to me. Bleed the gob. Mining too demands air, must circulate along the gob like breath. They call it bleeding to prevent spontaneous combustion. New regulations called for less ventilation, and MSHA rescinded the once approved air plan in favor of closing off tunnels like many throats suffocating. Massey said no at first, but complied, could not resist the siren song of profit. Upper Big Branch, millions in production daily. Calculated risk. And do not forget the damage dampers, and do not forget the dust swirling, millions of unlit matches waiting. But would the mine call a fire a tongue, an explosion, hunger, or a release, like a sigh of relief after a held breath, freed? And I've got one more. Re-entering the garden. Mother's morning hissed. Let me tell you a secret. If you're on your period, stay away from the garden. The scent of blood carries, kills the cucumbers. And if I had any of that sticky fluid pooling in my uterus to be released as a natural herbicide, I swear it all traveled to my cheeks. Her white shadow fingers burned my wrist where circulation evaded Mother's touch, as if my blood was ashamed to make contact with her hands, as if when I ran up the hillside garden, my young body screamed, "Woman, woman, you do not yet know your power." And I, desperate to disown this blood that made me ordinary. I was so strong, I carried nothing. Grew wild in the mountains like blackberries I loved. Sticky purple juice stained hands, lips, blue jeans. It's been years since any cucumbers were planted in that garden, rows overgrown with weeds. I'm free to bleed again, carry my blood and step between unseeded rows. No coarse hand to plant, nourish, or keep me from burying every discarded egg of my womanhood here, everything that cannot grow. Beloved garden once knew watermelons, tomatoes, squash, beans, corn. I believed my mother when she told me I was a threat. None of us will break ground here now. And when I stand at the edge of the hill between drooping brown sunflower heads bent in prayer, I can see the stone marked with plastic floral arrangements that won't die when unattended, but fade monthly, bleached by the sun. Thank you guys.
Hi. Thank you all for tuning in and watching this reading. I thought that I would start with a poem that I've actually written during this pandemic, and I've called it Elegy for Pre-Pandemic Existence. There are no secrets scattered in the dust that falls in motes along the window ledge. You look out that window to forget or to remember. A time not that long ago when dusk fell before you could walk outside to catch it. When you were free and the dark was not your only consolation. Do you remember days when the setting sun left you and time melted along the horizon as you walked in long shadows? Did you feel bereft or reflective? Your silence felt like fatigue, unlike now, when silence is the only company we keep. And despite the glaring sun, we live under a constant shadow that has no choice but to consume us. Sit a while longer by the window. Write your name in the dust. One day, someone will know you were here. So I grew up in a small town in Ohio that was known for its correctional facility and the big oil refinery in town. And this next poem is a poem that I wrote about living in that town. It's called When We Ruled the World, and it's from my book After Enchantment, which is available on Amazon.com. When we ruled the world. There we stood, dressed like Egyptians, or what we thought Egyptians should look like, from all our National Geographic magazines. Wrapped in old curtains, jewels, tulle, prancing around like we built the pyramids, while life in our sleepy Ohio town rolled by on its way to Middle America. Men went to work at the refinery, spewing invisible gas and smoke in the breeze, while women ironed shirts and watched television. But we did not notice the quiet turning, because we were too busy inventing pictograms, enslaving younger brothers in our games of carving scarabs and conquering the desert. Ancient worlds so enticing because the glossy pictures were clean, unlike the paint peeling from too much sulfur, the houses abandoned when factories closed. There being no room for Egyptian princes or pyramids in this Republican county, known for its prized cattle, corn, and soybeans. And since we're talking about roots, I have the next two poems. One is written about my mother, and the other is written about my father. And the first one is entitled Hand Me Down. Every evening, my mother pulled her knitting out of the basket behind her chair. After the dishes were washed, leftovers shelved, she sat with her metal needles, counting stitches, colored markers, pattern rows, as if ticking off time. Like the fates, she measured and spun. My life could be counted by stripes of mittens, hats, sweaters, blankets, created in her postprandial meditation. When she cut her final thread, put away her last skein of wool, I felt as if my life too had ended, until I lifted her needles, took up the frayed yarn, and saw her hands reflected back as I looked out the dark window. This poem is entitled Not Even the Rain, and it starts with an epigraph from Shailja Patel. Make it out of every scar and callus on your father's hands, and how you always wanted tough mechanic's hands like his. Distill it from the offering of his hands. Not even the rain. In photos, I can guess my father's age by looking at his hands. Before the war, he sits and reads, a magazine steady between his two good hands. He holds my mom, arm around her waist, and smiles broadly, his gaze just beyond the frame. After the war, he holds my mother tightly, armed with 7 good fingers. His smile has aged, his gaze has softened, like his palms, which open to make room for the 5 tiny hands who will come to seek refuge there. These next 3 poems I'm going to read are from a series that I have been writing about Eve and the Garden of Eden. And the first one is entitled Woman Born of Weather, and it has a line at the end from Patricia Smith. When did Eve become Eve? Was it when she awakened from the wet rib near Adam's spine, all sinew and water and blood? She had the garden in all its perfection as she grew into her skin, but what of it was really hers? Her bones were grown from Adam, the sun and rain, every tree, every insect lived and breathed in time with heaven. Sometimes perfection can be too much for a person to bear. Eve became Eve when she made up her own mind, took the first juicy bite. Then the storms came and swept through the garden. Eve knew that she had been born when a voice in her whispered, "Every woman begins as weather." Eve takes her leave of Adam. All of this I would have gladly accepted. The loss, the pain, my mortality. All this journey, this search for paradise. There was only ever one decision, one opinion. Fashioned from your rib, you thought I was yours. Vessel, made of bone and gristle. I was empty until the storms came and blew the world into me. I am a woman. Now, I need to travel, feel the power at my edges, the calm at my center. You will know where I am by the smell of rain in the air, the mud caressing your feet. Eve's equation. When Eve freed herself from the prison of the garden, she realized paradise did not equal freedom, and knowledge is not congruent with truth, even as she stood shivering in the truth of her bare skin, the cloak of mortality thrown at her feet. Eve knew that paradise equals perfection, but only if one subtracts choice. Eve did the math in her head. She had half an apple, a snake, her freedom, and the whole world. Only she knew how it would add up. I'd like to leave this reading with one quick poem to add a little of hope in this time that we're all living in. And it's also from my book, and it's entitled Buddha. Buddha said, unattach. When suffering comes, touch the earth, connect to the root of all roots. And when suffering finds you, be not the archer nor the arrow, be the air, which parts and reunites. Only air understands this movement and forgives. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Heavenly Mother, forgive us. Sun, the reason we live, gifting us air pumped through lungs, He generous, giving light to see and sharing pieces of Himself for our warmth. Worlds revolve around Him. Days exist because of Him. We once worshipped Him, going blind to gaze at His beauty. Now He burns us with scorching temperatures, melting frosty months, flooding lands and drying lakes. He remembers we once worshipped Him. Atabe, Mother is the reason we were born. She devotes her life to us. She moves ocean waves. She watches hidden in day and bright at night. She shines in darkness to guide. She can even conquer sun. We once worshipped her too, believing her just as great as her child, Sun, who climbs from caves to rule clocks, the same child who punishes people for no longer leaving fruits at his feet as he forgets to thank his mother. Yet, Atabe still pushes rivers of pure water, molds mountains of earth, and echoes screams of births. She knows the pain of life, pulling her shoulders and hips from the ground we trampled. She forgives sun for the death he's become. She is the moon, shielding us through black forests. She is the koki, singing us to sleep from bushes. She is the winds, whispering prayers to protect generations. She is the spirit, supreme goddess, the merciful mother we once worshipped and now have forgotten. Saludo mi gente, my name is Tatiana Figueroa Ramirez. That was one of the poems from my first poetry collection, Coconut Curls y Café con Leche. Quick shout out to Takoma Park community for putting all of this together and making sure that we can still come together in some capacity even though we're not in the same room together. That time is coming, but for now, this will be great. So I'm just gonna jump into another poem. Raining prayers. Listen, raindrops connect with wooden stages and leafy curtains. They the sounds of abuela's rosary, beads tapping in prayer, silver links locked, rose-infused wooden balls holding hands between crinkled fingertips. Feel moisture slip through metal rods, mist shimmers under a full moon. A mixture of liquid glitter and pure heat, star of darkness watches over swaying shores and swinging forests, a wet night light dipped in holy water. Release hard breaths to the beat of distant drums and abuela's repetition, songs of spirits and sparrows and tree frogs, westward winds and crying rivers cradle, home, island, you. So speaking of home, I'm originally from Puerto Rico. That's where I was born and that's where all my family is from. I go back pretty often. I was actually able to go back home to Puerto Rico just before the pandemic really started picking up here in Maryland. So I'm very grateful that I was able to do that. I was able to see some loved ones, but definitely during this time it's been a little bit difficult. some days are harder than most, thinking about my island, thinking about my hometown, thinking about my family, and not even being able to physically be with my family here in the US. It's definitely been trying at times. So this one is a shout out to my hometown. Ode to Sabana Grande. Let me climb that hill and see all of you. Your canary church of a heart, marking centuries squatting in your core. Spanish conquistadors and jibaros built an Oreo checkered plaza we sip Malta on. Black and white dominoes crash into origami tables, wobbles almost too much for pleated pieces of newspapers below. Careless chickens fighting roosters, never found dogs, multiplying cats, concealed coquis, breezy butterflies all call you home. You are where the refrigerated river runs through La Máquina across from Tio Chucho's house, signaled by the triangle palm and the skinny horses. Where Frankie Ruiz still croons over sink ceilings, wooden panels, and concrete feet. Where sherbet homes accent green mountains, moist when the land's tropical sweat. Where La Caridad del Cobre stands at steps too steep for toddlers, you are where home movies were made. Give me Mikey quiet, stumbling to launch ceramic plates over el balcón. Give me Ariana bribed with chocolate kisses. Papi and Theo joking in a corner of the party, and Marian's neck vein purple and popping because of Christian and Christy. Give me Abuela Mindy hands up, cheering after winning her first game. Give me Fifi ringing bells for mass. Give me Cha-Cha laying on the floor, blind. Give me home. Leave me in the cemetery, hot as Ponce at noon, where the deceased parents of my blood now sleep, religious visits gifted, heavenly reunions with the aroma of salty clouds, blue polyester roses faded by sun showers still bright next to gray and eggshell walkways broken open by squirming vines and roots fighting to breathe fresh air again. The old entrance echoes with Padre Nuestros and Ave Marias while collapsing crosses chorus, Que Dios lo tenga en su santa gloria. I want to sip from El Pozo as I hear rainbow birds chirp to the pulse of the rosary, listen to wind whispers shouting to tree branches and feel La Virgen quiet a town. Gently roasted legs walk up and down the callejon, stepping to the beat of beer bottles and bouncing bacalaitos en el bureng. They sway with the hammock we Ching hung up decades ago. They taste the same cement Ramiro's feet felt. Bare, open ears search for stories from Evelyn. Remember the fragrance of flooding flowers at Tio's velorio. Remember the burst of crackling sorullos at Mamititas. Remember the stampede of nieces and nephews tumbling through screens. Remember the tales told by baritone cane-paired whistles. From La Milagrosa to El Caserío, from Los Crespo to Los Pele, from no traffic lights and no cityscapes to Gandule farms and one-way roads. Sabana Grande, you are home. So, saludo a todos los que están en Sabana Grande y todos los que vienen de Sabana Grande. Se les quiere mucho, siempre. So with that, I'm going to read one more poem from this poetry collection. And please keep in mind that if you are interested in purchasing a copy of this book or my other book that I'll show you in just a minute, you can go to my website, www.sincerelytatiana.com. If you're just interested in learning more about me, connecting further, listening to more poetry, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Miss Sasiana. Black curls. Black curls, you are the fortune teller mommy could never believe, warning her of the hellish flames one of my Avallarte bites could unleash. You, the plague bringing men to their knees, no privilege for the young or wealthy, no tarot cards could control your path, you flowing in the waters of the sky, you a beast next to Medusa herself. Black curls, colonizers shaved you from my head, burned you from my scalp, and tried to flatten you away. But you, a loyal piece of resistance, stayed with fists high, coming to life. Resurrected or never killed, you laugh in the eyes reflecting the midnight garden you have grown. Black curls, you hold hands with my great-grandfather and link names swimming in my pool of blood. Each glisten on every coil, a call to the ancestors whose flesh I have never touched. You are the twisting DNA tattooing coordinates of births. You are the spirit in funeral homes whispering Santos Ramirez across my face. Black curls, the ignorant say I am a witch, a bruja because of you, and they are not wrong. You, the azabache spells spiraling from my skull, black diamond crystals bathed in coconut oil and salt water charged by the moon herself. You cradling the stars over the mountain of my body and grazing the galaxy's edges across my shoulders. Black curls, you are the envy of the world. All right, so I'm going to finish off with one last poem from my new chapbook, Despojo. Shout out to Flower Song Press, who was lovely enough to find a home for this chapbook. And I leave you with this. Perfumes. It begins outside, in your backyard or the trees down the road by the basketball court, usually in your grandmother's garden. You'll need lavender, roses, lilies, and mums to relax the strain stuck in the base of your neck, to perfume the space around your mind and calm your shiver, to purify open wounds from the permanence of scars, to ease your breath, allowing laughter to wake again. Think good thoughts. It moves inside, in your home or that of a loved one under the veil of God's hand. It will always be in the kitchen. You'll need aged rum, boiling water, a caldero, and a vase to preserve the sugar scents dancing through the liquid ripples, to steam clear clogged channels for positive energy, to contain the power brewing over the flame, to display the beauty of oblate blooms and blessed liquids. Think good thoughts. It grows deeper, in your heart and in your spirit, in your valves, guiding the blood of ancestors through your body. You'll need memory, gratitude, humility, and purpose. To thank the blossoms for the sacrifice and gifts. To invoke protective beings feeding your fragrant caldo. To set your intentions for creating these waters, birthing a bouquet, and cleansing yourself. Think good thoughts.